Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here at the second training of motivational interviewing. This is the applied portion. We are the CARE, Crisis and Recovery Enhancement Training and Technical Assistance Center. We are funded through the Mental Health Services Act to provide training and technical assistance to the mental health workforce of California, the 58 MHSA funded county programs in 2 cities, regarding the crisis continuum of care and justice diversion. So welcome to all of you. My name is Eliana Ramirez. I am the director of the CARE Crisis and Recovery Enhancement Training and Technical Assistance Center. Starting off with the disclaimer that what we are going to share here is representative of our trainer, Christina Wade. It does not necessarily represent our funder, the California Department of Healthcare Services, nor the Center for Applied Research Solutions, the agency that I work with, who leads this CARE TA Center. So the Crisis and Recovery Enhancement TA Center provides training and technical assistance to the 58 counties across California that provide Mental Health Services Act funded crisis continuum of care and justice diversion services. We welcome everyone to visit our website where you can place a TA request. We also have a resource library, which is an exciting place to access information regarding crisis continuum of care and justice diversion, and a variety of other training and technical assistance support services that are available to you through our website. So our learning objectives, Christina Wade is going to get into them in just a few moments here, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about our presenter. Christina Wade is certified in motivational interviewing, motivational enhancement therapy, with a clinical range of experience, including justice involvement, addiction, suicide prevention, crisis management, and homelessness. Christina earned her MSW from the University of Texas at Austin in 2006 while working concurrently as the graduate research assistant for the Center for Social Work Research. She began her career at the University of California, San Diego, working as the senior clinical social worker for pre-release services in various California state prisons. In 2010, she accepted a position working directly for the California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation, specifically San Quentin State Prison. Christina worked a total of 6 years in the California penal system. While employed at San Quentin, Christina earned her LCSW. In 2012, she transitioned to the Veterans Affairs Palo Alto Healthcare System as the forensic expert for addiction treatment services, working with veterans suffering from addiction, PTSD, and mood disorders. In 2014, she transitioned to supervising within emergency services at the University of California, working out of San Francisco General Hospital. Christina left the UC to work as the East Bay Suicide Prevention Coordinator at VA Northern California Healthcare System, before taking on her current role as Senior Program Analyst for the Rocky Mountain MURIC for VA Suicide Prevention. And for those of you who joined us at our last session on motivational interviewing, you know that Christina is a truly phenomenal presenter who shares with us her vast experience doing clinical care. And we are thrilled to have you all back here. So without further ado, I present to you, Christina.
Thank you. We'll just stick on this slide for a second. So hi, everyone. Welcome back to Motivational Interviewing. It's awesome to be back again with you guys today. I'm really looking forward to building on the stuff that we spoke about last week. So a lot of what we're going to be practicing today is how to be the kind of provider that we talked about last session, right? So how to be a provider that hears our patient when they're ready to make a change, that understands what's happening in our patients' lives in a way that helps them feel like we get them. How to be a provider that recognizes when our patients are ready to make a change so we can meet them with compassion and empathy in a way that inspires them to keep going for themselves. Let's do the objectives before I launch into our day, actually. So we're going to be re-reviewing in the beginning certain portions of the first session, so namely around exploring client ambivalence and eliciting change talk. So I'm going to provide a bit more background information just so you guys have a good handle on what to do prior to getting into our group exercises. I'd say the most exciting thing that I think we're going to do today is we're going to dive into the meat of our motivational interviewing skills. So something that I noticed during the last audience poll of our first session was that habit and confidence were of a fairly high concern within our group. So today, I really want us to practice with intention. So we're going to build up our MI skills to help us get used to how it feels when we apply these techniques, when we want to think quickly about them within our patient interactions. So we've got a total of 3 exercises coming up, 3 group exercises. So one that's in response to a video, and then 2 others where we're actually going to be practicing together as a group. And I'll say for these exercises, please make sure that you are participating. It's just really helpful to see how other people are thinking in terms of motivational interviewing, using our oars, right? This is the biggest opportunity that we're going to have to learn together. It's really brainstorm together as a group while we're learning these new and different skills. And then third, after those exercises, we'll just review a bit more and talk about what our role becomes when changes start to happen. So what do we say? What do we do? So we'll touch on how to keep the process going when our clients move into preparation and action. First, some of the important parts of what we learned last week, just to make sure that we're all on the same page with regards to the spirit of motivational interviewing. So motivational interviewing is all about finding an effective way of talking with our clients about things that they want to change in their lives. And, you know, this actually makes me think about another comment that one of you guys made last week that really hit home for me. So someone asked about how to help our patients become more open to the possibility of treatment, right? And I love that this person highlighted that oftentimes it can be really scary and hard to ask for help, right? Even if our patients aren't in pre-contemplation or contemplation, if they're ready, it can be scary to make that decision around becoming vulnerable. With motivational interviewing, things are largely rooted in compassion and empathy. I think one of the biggest ways that we can relay to our clients that we're safe, that they can ask us for help, that we're worth opening up to, and that really we value their vulnerability, is that we demonstrate that ongoing compassion and empathy while we're looking for their motivation, right? So we always want to be approaching our clients from that MI framework, even when they may not be ready to use us, but so that when they become open, if and when they see us as trustworthy, when they feel confidence in us and our ability to follow through, and even more, when they themselves feel motivated to tackle a problem behavior with us, we're ready, right? We're there. Nothing after really will change for us after they've confided in us, because we've been approaching them from that same MI framework since the very beginning. So we've always been ready with that same compassion and empathy. And even more, we've been okay with patience. Well, really, they've decided whether or not they're ready to use us, whether or not they decide if they want to use us as a provider at all. So motivational interviewing is really, it's us as providers prioritizing our patients' needs. And, you know, I was just saying this. So I realized this with my wife this past weekend, that we were talking about the content of this training. And so without compassion, right, without empathy, which MI is so deeply rooted in, these skills would be really similar to marketing, which is what she does in the tech industry. But so for us, the difference, though, is that our goal with these techniques is really to help our patients change their lives for the better. So it's important for us to hold on to that compassion, that empathy, because without it, we actually lose the spirit of motivational interviewing. So a couple more things I want to highlight. Motivational interviewing is a skill set that requires us to explore our clients' belief system. So that's what it's all about. Our clients are the experts in what they believe, and we as their providers, we're tasked with understanding those belief systems, not imposing upon them. So motivation to change is really elicited from our clients and not from us. It's motivation that comes from them and only them. Again, it's our job to really draw out our clients' own perceptions, their goals, their value, right? We're instilling something, we're not instilling something that's missing. We're drawing out something that's already there in them. Another key thing to think about when we are thinking about the spirit of motivational interviewing is that we want to be doing more listening than talking. So we want to listen for our clients' ideas, their beliefs, their values, right? And all the while, we want to be thinking and listening with a strategy. So what's going to work best for this client? How can I best approach and align with my client right now? Motivational interviewing really requires us to trust our patients, to let go of the belief that it's all on us. So at the end of the day, it reminds us that we honestly don't know what's best. Our clients know what's best. And as such, they're the ones who can best tap into what motivates them for positive change. So it's our job to learn from our clients and not the other way around. So we are going to jump into an exercise. So when I first learned about motivational interviewing, I watched a similar video to the one that we're about to watch together. And I'm going to ask you to do the exact same thing that my teacher asked me to do. So first, try to figure out why we are watching a video about a horse, right? Take notes about things that you notice, because I want you guys to share your thoughts on the video from an MI framework. So what's happening in this video? What do you notice about the dynamics? How are they related to motivational interviewing? So kind of in free form as we're watching, share your thoughts and insights in the chat box as this video progresses, because I want us to talk through some of it together.
And let me tell you that I have never touched this horse before. The first time I saw him was a couple of weeks ago in Montana. What is his name?
Gladiator.
Gladiator. Holy moly. Gladiator. And how old is he? 2-year-old. Okay, has he ever been ridden? I don't know whether he's ever been ridden before or not. If he has, it's been a very small number of times. Gladiator. I bought a group of horses up there, so he actually belongs to me, but he actually belongs to me for the Willing Partners program, or to become a super gentle horse. I'm going to unclip this, and I'm going to use my eyes, my shoulders. Every movement that I have will be to ask this horse to go away from me, just like that. And he goes away, but don't go away a little, go away a lot, like this. I even want him to canter. On away, on away. This is all a communication process. I'm eyes on eyes, shoulders square, all motions square, and traveling so that I open them up. Open up the opportunity for him to move forward. Now I'm ready to turn him and put him back in the original direction he traveled. Now I'm ready for join up, but I'm going to send him again, speed it up. Then I'm going to take him back down. There's the head coming down. I'm going to take him back down now and let him move along slowly. And then I'm going to go passive, and passive means that I'm going to go in a little bit of a hook and take my left shoulder past his eye and out in front of him at 12 o'clock. Just like this. And I'm going to try to keep my shoulders on a 45-degree angle to his body axis and see if I can pull him with me. Lots of distractions. Pull him with me for that moment of join up. Reward and walk away. Join up and follow up. And when people saw this, and they'd been working in the difficult way all their lives, they said, "This can't be, man. That guy's possessed by the devil." Equipment. Now I'm going to put that saddle on if I can. Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy. Saddle pad. Oh, that's scary. But you can see that the trust is there, and he's working on allowing these things to happen, even though it's against all of his DNA. It's against every instinct that he has. This business of allowing something up on his back. That's something that a horse just doesn't do, any more than a soldier allows the enemy to get around behind him without taking evasive action. The lion, tiger, big cat, they go right up on the back, and horses learn how to buck them off. That's what bucking is all about, is to get the big cat off the back. Kicking is about the dog down here in the flank. And you don't run away from them when they bite you in the flank. You kick them. You cave into them and kick them. Then you can run away. But if you run away without kicking them first, you're very apt to tear your guts out. That's all been programmed in through 50 million years of survival of the fittest. About nearly 100% of all horses broken in the traditional method will buck with their first saddle. But only about 60% buck with this method with their first saddle because they're trying to work it out. They're trying to trust. So they'll fail to buck in about 40% of the cases. He's going to buck a little bit. A tiny bit. That won't get him in the professional bucking string. Here we go, 12 o'clock. I'm going to draw him back to me. Watch this. Draw him back. We have to be fair about it and judge horses in their genre, in their world, not simply saying they're stupid because they can't figure out how to act like a primate. The primate has been the model for intelligence since the beginning of time. The gorilla and the chimpanzee and the human being. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are the most intelligent. It just means that they have a complicated mind that acts in a certain way. I want him to turn right now. So I'll just tighten that right rein. So he begins his training process. Get his coordination down. Tighten the left rein and get a left turn. And then celebrate with him. Left lead in front, right lead behind. We'll get the back one right. Here it comes. Now he's left both ends. Now I'm going to bring him off that. Just let him trot. And I'm going to show him how to accept direction from the reins. Left rein saying make a smaller circle. And then we're going to make a right turn. Right rein saying make a smaller circle. Rooting, trying to get freedom from it. Consequences are that it gets tighter and I pull harder. When he gets it right, he comes off of it, I'll yield to him. So he learns how to find the path of least resistance, not of most resistance, like that. Then I'd like him to stop and face away from me and just relax. Now I'd like him to back up a few steps. Amazing, huh?
Awesome. I love your guys' responses. I'm going to read through some of these. I wrote down 3 of my own. I bet you're going to repeat them, but you guys had such good responses here. Rapport building, which, yes, absolutely. Being aware and sensitive to what's happening, body language, being safe in partnering, right? Building trust, being consistent, absolutely. He's allowing the horse to take the lead and move at his own pace. Yes, absolutely. Staying in momentum of where the horse leads him. So respecting boundaries, absolutely. Ooh, I like this one. You have to have a plan if you want action. The trainer is articulating his plan. He did, and he let the people who were there know what he was doing. Body language, building a relationship. He's allowing him to take lead. Let's go through engagement, trust building, awareness, where the horse is at in the moment. Absolutely. And Bobby, you were saying, you were the one that mentioned before how hard it was to ask for help. And I would just say hats off to you for going through treatment and working to figure out what you were going through. I think that your insights I really appreciate them. And figuring out how to kind of dig deeper is, yes, at the heart of a lot of people's struggle. I think generally we all have them as human beings. No one is able to say that they don't have anything that kind of bothers them or that may haunt them. Building trust and showing care. Yes, absolutely. Connection with intention. I love that, of engagement, and eliciting behavior change. Yes, which is what we're going to talk about a lot today. Coaching and consistency. These are so good. One of the first things that stuck out to me while I was watching the initial join up was that I thought the horse trainer did a really good job of being a stable source of energy. And I know a lot of you guys actually commented on that. So he was patient, right? He waited for Gladiator to approach him before transitioning to anything new. He waited for Gladiator to join him. And then even more, once they were on the same page, once they had joined up, the trainer provided Gladiator with an affirmation of rubbing his head, right? He said, good boy. So it was like through that head rub, he told Gladiator, I'm here. I'm happy that we're here and we're on the same page. The second piece that I wrote down was I wanted to highlight the dynamics that happened when the trainer put the saddle on Gladiator's back. For me, it felt like it was just so similar to the work that we do when we ask our clients to do something out of their comfort zone, right? Even if that may simply be asking us for help. The trainer acknowledged that by putting the saddle on this horse's back, it was unnatural. It was uncomfortable. It was likely a little bit scary. And of course, we can't always compare horses to humans, but the thing that I loved about this video and why I wanted to show it is I feel like it just really shows the primitive nature of trust and rapport, which is what a lot of you guys highlighted. And I'm so happy that you saw that. It shows what can happen when the client, so Gladiator in this case, feels thought of and cared for, right? It can help them with an overall feeling of safety when our clients feel like we see them, we get them, right? We're with them. And then the last piece that I wanted to highlight, mainly just because I felt like it demonstrated the spirit, which I just went over with, but the spirit of MI so well, was when the trainer actually spoke about Gladiator's innate senses, right? He spoke about why horses kick and buck. So he thought about the why. And that's what we're always wanting to do. We're always wanting to think about, why is this happening? Why the ambivalence, right? Why the resistance? The trainer acknowledged those behaviors as normal for Gladiator. Kicking and bucking are to be expected with horses, right? Just like ambivalence is to be expected with human beings, especially our clients, right? And it's up to the trainer or the provider to understand and acknowledge the process that happens, so that when approaching a behavioral change, it might be scary, right? More times than not, it's scary when you think about wanting to change. So we need to be thinking about how to use our MI skills, how to use our ORs, those open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. How do we use those skills to curve some of the fear that our clients may be feeling? I think at one point the trainer actually said something like, I appreciate you letting me come close. And to me, it was like he was saying, I want to trust you, and I want you to trust me. And I loved that because that's what motivational interviewing is all about. Keeping in with this trust and rapport that we just watched. So in our last training, we had more of a broad overview with regards to motivational interviewing and specifically the skills that we're going to be practicing today. So just to make sure that you guys have a good handle on how these skills work when we're eliciting change talk, I thought it would be smart to review the process a bit more in depth. So how do we best understand the changes that need to be made in our patients' lives, right? How do we find the problem behavior that's in conflict with our patient's life goal or value? So when we're meeting with our clients, given MI really is a directive method of treatment, we'll want to start by providing general introductions, agenda setting, kind of getting permission to talk about what's been going on. So something like, hi clients, my name is Christina and I'm the social worker that's going to be working with you. You know, I know it can feel kind of nerve-wracking when meeting new people. So I thought a good way to start would be to give you a general overview of what to expect for today. Does that work for you? So right off the bat, I'm letting the client know you're in the driver's seat, and I respect that, right? I get this may be uncomfortable. You may be feeling ambivalent. So I'm asking permission before we move forward. And let's say I get that permission. So next I could say something like, okay, great. So today we're going to be meeting for about an hour, and I'm hoping we can chat about some of the things that have been going on in your life. Thinking kind of about what brought you here today. How does that sound? Would it be okay if we talk about why you're here to see me? So once we get that permission, right, to move more into the bulk, the why is this client in my office? What's happening in their life right now? That's where we really want to have our MI strategy in mind. It's where we'll start listening for ways to evoke, or rather elicit, change talk, right? So some of the methods that we use while eliciting change talk are things like evocative questions. So what concerns might you have about your drinking? Or you can query extremes, right? So, okay, let's suppose that you continue going on as you've been without changing. What are some of the worst things that could happen to you? It could be looking back. So, hey, tell me, do you remember a time in your past when drinking wasn't an issue? What was going on back then? How was your life different? Right? Or on the flip side, it could be looking forward. So, hey, how would your life be different if you were to make this change? So additionally, while we work to elicit change talk, we're always wanting to encourage elaboration. So when we can, we ask for clarification. So I see, so tell me, in what ways, or how much, or even just when, right? You can also ask for a specific example. Tell me more about what you mean when you said drinking might be a problem. What about drinking do you think is problematic? What specifically? Right? Or you can ask for a description of the last time that this occurred. So it sounds like you've had this happen before, and it also sounds like you were able to follow it up with years of sobriety. Tell me, what happened back then? What did you do? Right? And then honestly, when all else fails, because a lot of times you're going to get stuck, right? Just ask for more. You can just say, what else? Or tell me more. Anything else? That still keeps it going. So once we've gotten a good handle on our clients' change talk, once we've really heard our clients identify problems in their life that they'd actually like to change, that's when we summarize and we ask the transitional question. Okay, so it sounds like drinking has become a problem in your marriage. And at times, while it feels like your wife is bothered by alcohol more than you, your marriage matters to you. And you know that she's worried about you. So what's next? What do you think you want to do? Right? It can even be asking, where does sobriety fit in your future? So after doing these things, the last component of eliciting change talk is really to close out the statements. You want to acknowledge and appreciate the fact that your client was willing to engage in this discussion with you about their problem, right? So it's saying something like, you know, thank you for talking to me today about how drinking impacts your life. I learned a lot about you, and I really appreciate it. I feel hopeful for your future, right? So wanting to support our clients through self-efficacy by affirming and complimenting, by reinforcing, and really by most of all, by offering hope. Hope goes a really, really long way when it comes to motivation for change. So there is actually kind of a general formula that we use when we're eliciting and even more attempting to enhance our client's change talk. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find out more about what our client already knows. And I'm going to think about this actually from a few different perspectives to really drive in this concept. So for the first example, let's think about someone who comes in exhibiting symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I want to know what they know, right? So I could say something like, well, so tell me, what do you already know about how treatment for PTSD works, right? Or let's think about someone who comes in struggling with anger. I could say, what have you heard about when it comes to anger? What do you know about it? Or if we want to think of a substance use example, we could say something like, hey, from your perspective, what do you consider to be a problem when it comes to drinking? Right. So we're wanting to figure out where to start with our client. What does our client already know? And what's their belief about, what's their belief system really about this problem behavior? And then even more, you want to also like be listening for how they talk about that perspective, right? How are they talking about their knowledge of this problem? So the second thing that you're going to want to do once you kind of know what they know is you ask for permission before providing additional information. So now I know what my client knows. Do I have permission to give them some information? Great. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. It really helps me to understand where you're coming from. Would it be okay with you if I shared a few of my thoughts? So we especially want to get that permission if we're going to be offering our opinion or advice. And then even more, it's important to think about the fact that if we're expressing concern, us getting that permission from our clients beforehand, it helps us come from a place of neutral curiosity. So it helps us approach our clients from a place without judgment when we get their permission. So let's say we get that permission, right? So, and we're back to our PTSD example for this. So from there, I could say something like, you know, for many people who suffer from PTSD, there's this particular program that I have in mind, and it's been really successful in reducing a lot of your symptoms. It can be exhausting to live with these feelings on a daily basis, and I think this treatment program may help. Right? Or with regards to our anger example, it could be, it might be a good idea to consider getting additional help for the anger that you're describing. There's treatment for that because you're right. It can be really hard to calm down in the moment, right? If we go back thinking about our third example, our substance use example, we could say something like, is your provider, I'm concerned about the level of drinking that you've been reporting. It sounds like work is so stressful right now, and I'm worried that drinking may actually lead to more problems in your work environment. So the third step is basically seeing where your feedback lands, right? So how do your words sit with your client? So you're going to want to ask your clients their thoughts about the information that you just provided them with. So what do you think? Or what do you make of that? You could say something like, what thoughts do you have about the information that I just shared? Or even how does that fit within your thinking? Right, so I put a picture of people dancing on this slide because we're wanting to make sure that we're dancing with our clients. And we talked about this a little last session. Ileana used this metaphor and it was so perfect. Communication is meant to be a dance in motivational interviewing. It's meant to be smooth. That's why we roll with resistance, right? That's why we have our ORs, those open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. We don't want ambivalence to trip us up. We don't want to step on our clients' toes. We want to move with them. We want them to trust us, and we want us to trust them at the end of the day. Let's review the ORs of motivational interviewing a bit more, really also to hammer in the techniques that make up the how when it comes to drumming up our clients' change talk. So the ORs of motivational interviewing, these are the tools that we use when we respond to our clients with hopes of eliciting change talk and garnering motivation for change, right? The ORs, again, because you can't say it enough, is the open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and or summaries that we use when we're practicing within an MI framework. So we're about to start practicing, so let's really get into that mindset. So first, I want you to think about these techniques as tools in your tool belt. So we're going to be practicing the use of these tools so you can feel confident in pulling these tools out from your tool belt whenever you need them with your clients in the field. I want you to think of these tools as really, they're the crux of your work in motivational interviewing. They are really what help you with your MI strategy. They're actually what help your MI strategy come to life. And they keep you true, and in the end of the day, to your MI framework, right? So open-ended questions. These are questions that cannot be answered in one word. They're meant to open up a conversation. So a great way to start an open-ended question is by using words like how. How do you feel about? Or tell me about a time when, or what else, or anything else, right? So affirmations are the things that we say when we highlight our patient's efforts and strength. They help to keep hope alive. They maintain good rapport with our clients because with affirmations, we see them, we get them, right? And then reflections, which I arguably think is probably one of the most important tools, yet the hardest to learn. So reflections are the Swiss Army knife of our tool belt because you can pull from simplified reflections or amplified reflections or double-sided reflections. So reflections help to keep clarity happening. So they help us really with clarity and validation. They make sure everyone's on the same page, and they remind our clients of their own reasons for wanting to change, or at least considering change. Right, and then summaries. So the main difference between summaries and reflections are that summaries are used to transition. So it's where we pull together all the change talk we've been hearing. And by using our reflective and our summative skills, we ask that vital transitional question. So what's next? We're about to get into it, guys. So given that, at least in my opinion, reflections can be super tough to learn, we are going to focus on this skill during this second group exercise. So again, reflections are the Swiss Army knife of our OARs when it comes to eliciting change talk. And I really want to make sure you guys have an opportunity to practice here because you're going to be using them both in our second and third exercises. Just as a precursor, so you kind of know what we'll be doing. So for the second exercise, I've put together 10 client statements that we'll be using really to build up our reflective listening skills together. I'm going to read each statement out loud to you guys, and then I'll pause for probably about a minute. I really want you to take your time, though. Don't feel like it has to be right off the bat. Be thoughtful around these reflections. And I know I just feel like I should call it out. It's weird to do this kind of stuff online sometimes, these exercises. So do your best to think of different reflections. So if you see that someone has typed in the reflection that you wanted to use, just think of it as another opportunity to practice coming up with a second different reflection. So really make yourself think here because it's how you're going to learn the best. So before we break into those 10 statements, I just want us to do an example together so you know what I'm looking for. So let's say I'm working with a patient and he comes in saying this, right? So before my deployment, things were fine. My life was good. Now that I'm back, I have no idea where I fit in. My family doesn't understand me. My friends think I'm scary. I just wish I could go back overseas again. Right, so that's an example of a statement that I'll be giving you guys. So what we'll be working off of when it comes to this second exercise. So a reflection to this statement, what I'm wanting you guys to get back to me in the chat box, it could be something like, so I hear you. Your deployment flipped everything upside down and now you don't know where you stand, right? It's a simple reflection stated back to this client with hopes of relaying our compassion and empathy for his particular situation. And while that is sufficient, that's definitely what I'm looking for in this practice session. I would actually also encourage you though, go deeper if you can. Make your reflections even more complex by focusing on bringing in the feeling, the emotion. So it could be adding something to that reflection. Your deployment flipped everything upside down and now you don't know where you stand. So life feels uncertain, right? Try to bring in that feeling, that emotion as you're doing these reflections if you can, because incorporating our patients' feelings, their emotions, we're offering our understanding when we do that. So we're relaying our empathy and our compassion in a way that invites our client to keep exploring those emotions with us. For our first statement, I really don't like having to come here. I'm not crazy. So what's a reflection that you could say back to this statement? And again, take your time. We're going to pause for a minute so that you can be thoughtful around your response. But what's a reflection that you would say back to your client? What's the feeling that they feel when they tell you, I really don't like having to come here. I'm not crazy. So what would you say? Jeff says, you have better things to do, and people thinking that you are crazy does not make any sense to you. That's great, because I would absolutely respond back to that if I was a client. That's a great one. Monica says, I hear that coming here might make you uncomfortable. Absolutely, and way to bring in that emotion there. Can you tell me about what feelings you have when you come here? Awesome, and that's actually an open-ended question in itself. That's super, super good. Let's see, Emmanuel says, I understand that being here is not preferred. Can you tell me why? Can you tell me why you would feel that only crazy people come here? Ooh, I love that question. That's a good question. Let's see. Lillian says, I hear that you don't enjoy coming here, but I'm glad you came here today. So you guys are actually doing part of what we're going to do in next exercise already. This is awesome. I hear that you're concerned and that you think we're judging you. That is reflecting back what the person says. These are awesome. I would encourage you guys to definitely read each other's responses, because this is what helps in terms of learning how to think. So our second statement, I don't know what to do. It seems like I've tried everything and I don't know how to get rid of these nightmares. Just tell me what to do. So how would you reflect back a statement meant to elicit change talk when your client says something like this? So take that full minute again. So I would encourage you guys, keep thinking about these as reflections and not questions. One that I am starting with, I hear that coming here is very out of your comfort zone. I love that. It's absolutely. I understand your feeling of not knowing what to expect, right? That's also super, super great. I hear that you're at a loss and you're looking for direction. Absolutely. And they can agree or disagree with that. And it's so perfect for stepping into the next part of the conversation, right? It sounds like you're feeling hopeless, that you can't change these nightmares. So these are great. You guys are doing great. So what do you think are triggering your nightmares? That is a great open-ended question. So for this, let's keep trying to think of reflections, and all of these would still work. It's just for the actual exercise. You're looking for guidance and a new way of coping. I love that. That's super good. Awesome. So let's go to our third statement. I really want to get my life back. Before I got locked up, I was happy. Things were going well. I thought getting probation was going to be a good thing, but now that I'm out, everything's falling apart. So what would your reflection to this statement be? So Sharon, I'm going to start with yours. I loved it. You want your life back. Tell me what that would look like. It's spot on right there, right? Like you're tapping into what it feels like this person is feeling through what they're saying. Tammy says, I hear that you're feeling like your life is not what you expected. Also super, super good. Let's see. I hear that locking up has made things more difficult for you in the outside world. Absolutely. It must be such a devastating feeling to not have a sense of control over the direction of your life. Absolutely. I think so many people getting out of the justice system feel like that because, gosh, of just so many different things. I think the first thing just being that now they have something tied to their record, but that's such a good statement. I'm seeing a lot of really great open-ended questions also. I want to definitely acknowledge that. Many things have changed for you and you feel overwhelmed. Absolutely. Super, super good right there. You're struggling with putting the puzzle of life together. That makes sense. That's such a good one. These are awesome. I feel like I'm getting the runaround. I know you're not supposed to be helping me, but it just feels like I go from one place to the next and nothing ever changes. How many of us have heard that? So what would you say back to this client using a reflection? How would you keep this conversation moving forward? Eli, I'm going to start with yours. It sounds like you're going around in circles. Where would you like to see yourself right now? So I love that. That's when I thought of this statement. It made me think of actually of a specific patient and how she used to describe feeling like she was a ping pong ball in the VA, like she was just bounced from one to another, right? And this is going around in circles is such a good way of saying that. Jana saying, it sounds like you're not finding many available resources. Let's go over what you've tried, which is awesome. You're totally joining and you're there with your patient with that. That's a great one as well. It makes sense that you're frustrated by getting bounced around. If things look different, what would that be like for you? Awesome. You used a reflection and an open-ended question. You just did the third exercise. Great, great job right there. Change is difficult. What are your expectations of me? Interesting. Okay, that was a good one too, because it kind of also brings you back into what's happening with the client. It's such a good one. It's so simple and it's so meaningful and powerful. It seems that you feel frustrated. What can we do different to help you? And I love that because it's yes, that one's a really good one as well. There's a lot of shifting gears. That's super, super, super accurate when it comes to healthcare. Awesome. These are really, really good, you guys. Can we go to the fifth statement? I really didn't need to be in the hospital anyways. What I need to do is work. I wouldn't get in trouble with drinking if I were working. So what's a reflection for this statement? What's the emotion that you feel? What would you say to your client? Let's start with Leanne. I like this one. So what I hear you saying is that working would be most beneficial for you. Awesome, because that's definitely what they're saying. And you can open so much by just reflecting and validating that patient in feeling that way. It's a great one right there. Working is empowering and it gives us a sense of purpose. That's a great goal to work towards. Absolutely. I love that one. I'm hearing that when you aren't working, you aren't drinking as much. That's a super, super good one. It seems like you feel that you have a good sense of what would help you, right? And you can offer an affirmation after that or an open-ended question. That's a great reflection to lead into change behavior. Change talk, not change behavior. You value your work and you find the hospital as an inconvenience. Absolutely, that's a perfect reflection of what that patient was saying. And let's go to the sixth statement. So a couple more. I'm starting to scare myself. Sometimes I just go off and I don't even know why. I don't want to hurt anybody. Right? So take a minute, think about that reflection. And what would you say to this patient with hopes of eliciting change talk, of bringing them to a place of wanting to talk about a behavior they want to change? I hear you feel a bit out of control and you don't want to scare others or yourself any longer. I love that. It's hard to think that we can lose control of our behaviors at times. I get that you don't want to hurt anyone. Absolutely. Joey, I love this one. It sounds like you've recognized the problem. Let's take the next step. That's awesome. I hear you. That sounds scary. And you have some concerns about it. Absolutely. You really love the people around you and you want them to feel safe. Perfect. That's so, so good. Anger is a strong emotion for sure. Good reflection. They don't have to be super, super long to be really powerful. I'm hearing that you are afraid and you want to protect others. Also really, really great. Good. You guys are doing really good with reflections. You're getting them much faster than I did back in the day. And can we go to the next statement? My family's trying to be supportive and they want me to get better, but I tell you, they just don't understand what it was like. They expect me to be the same person that I was before, and it's never going to happen. And this statement's actually something that I thought of when I first worked in the prison. I used to hear it over and over, especially from our lower security guys that were maybe on their first or second parole violation that had a lot of family support. So what would you say back to this patient to help? What would your reflection be to this statement? And I'm sure this is applicable for many different settings. I hear that you've changed and your family isn't understanding the change. Absolutely. I hear that you're frustrated trying to live up to your family's expectations. Absolutely. I love all these I'm hearing. It's so good because it It's just really personal, right? It brings you closer to your patient when you really are reflecting also how you are feeling about what you're hearing from them. I'm hearing that things have changed for you and that you're feeling misunderstood by those you cherish the most. Awesome. Super, super good. You're feeling that your family misunderstands you. Absolutely. It must feel isolating that the people that support you can't understand your experience. These are so good. This, absolutely. I hear you have a lot of love for your family. Yes. I like this one too. This is actually a little amplified. It sounds like your family doesn't know how to help and they don't understand what it was like for you. And that's so good because there could be little parts in that where there could be disagreement and you can actually open a lot of stuff up around that for how to connect with the family. That's a great reflection. And last one, I love this too. As humans, we're afraid of change. It's the unknown and scary, especially with loved ones. These are great. And let's go to, I think, our 8th statement. So your client says, I don't think I'm an addict. I'm not like those other guys who can't handle their drugs and get into trouble. So what would you say back to that? What's a reflection for this statement? So Jack, I'm going to start with yours. It sounds like drugs. I love this. It's amplified. It's perfect. It's probably honest. I loved amplified reflections. It sounds like drugs have never caused troubles in your life. It's it's beautiful. Let's hope that they're gonna disagree with that, and then all of a sudden there you're at the change talk, right? It's a great reflection. You don't identify as an addict. What does that mean for you? It's a reflection with an open-ended question. Great job. Drinking is not a problem for you. Very, very good. Let's see. I see so many good open-ended questions too. Just to kind of keep calling that out. You guys are doing great with those. Just for the exercise, I'm going to highlight the reflections though. You don't feel like you have a problem with drugs. Absolutely. You feel different from the addicts that get into trouble. So that's definitely, I think that it does show that this patient feels differently. The one thing I would say with some of these reflections too is make sure that there's not any even inklings of judgment in your reflections. This is definitely a good one. It just makes me think of other things that I have said in the past where I think that some clients have not taken it super well. But be careful when you're saying and you're comparing people with others, because sometimes it can get a little messy, but it's always something that you can recover from too, because you're a human being and you're being honest in the session. It sounds like other people may have told you that you were an addict. Yes, that is a really, really good reflection, because that will talk about why, who, what happened. Sounds like you feel misunderstood by your substance use. I'd love to hear more about how you view your substance use. Awesome. Super, super good. These are all so good, guys. I loved all of those examples. And then number 9, similar to what we talked about last week, actually. This is BS. My wife is threatening to leave me and take away the kids if I don't stop drinking. I can't let her do that. So how would you reflect back to your client in a way that moves towards change talk if they say something like this? Okay. So Tabitha, I'm going to start with yours. I hear that you don't want to lose your family. Yes, it's so good. Absolutely. It sounds like you've never had a problem with drugs. Absolutely. Amplify it. Get it. Make it bigger. Make them disagree with you. Let's see. Your family is important to you. How does your drinking affect them? Awesome. And again, you just did the next exercise we're going to do. Really, really, really good job pairing a reflection with an open-ended question. So you're validating this patient by also telling them basically, this is how I hear you feel, right? And now can we open it up so you can tell me more? It's just really, really good job. Your kids are important to you. Yes, and that is so oftentimes, it can be such a strong motivation when people are moved when it comes to their children and their family. I hate to say use it, but I would say recognize it. Recognize when there is a deep love and connection that you can really focus on as you're exploring reasons to change, right? Because sometimes people need help, and it's good to remind them of those loved ones in their lives that would benefit from their life also improving. Just a couple more. It sounds like you really care about your kids. Absolutely. Your children are your main priority. Yes, you guys are picking up on it. It sounds like you're under a lot of pressure. Awesome. I think you really nailed the feeling of that with that reflection. Yeah, these are so good. It sounds like your children are very important to you. You sound frustrated, and losing your kids sounds scary and painful. Perfect. A+. It's so good. And let's go to our last statement. I'm sick and tired of this. I've been to every program there is, and I'm still messed up. I just want a normal life. What would you reflect back to this patient? What are they feeling right now? What would you say? The suicide prevention coordinator in me is loving your guys' reflections with this statement. Okay, so Tammy, and I've seen so many of yours. You have great reflections. I hear that the programs you've been to haven't helped you, and you want to give up. So it's a good one, right? Because it just feels like they're at the end right now. Gosh, how do I keep going? Right? Victoria says, it sounds like you want to give up. So those are good ways of amplifying a reflection while also opening the door for a lot of different conversations. Because I think that sometimes when people get to a place when they're saying something like this, when they have tried something over and over and over and over, it can feel hopeless. And it's important for us to reflect that, because not necessarily that it's going to be leading to any discussion around suicidality. However, by reflecting something, by calling out the emotion and the feeling that someone is feeling, you're opening the door to allow them to talk to you about either all of the programs or the fact that they may be coming to a place where they just want to give up, right? And that's what we want. We want our clients talking to us about that stuff, because we don't want them to sit with that stuff by themselves. Really, really great reflections there. Let's see. It sounds like you're feeling hopeless, but really want to make things better. Absolutely. You instilled hope there. Great, great job. Change can be difficult. How do you see yourself? Andrew, I think that would make your client be like, I wonder. You know, it's a good way to open up that question. Ooh, I like this one. Normal is an illusion. There's so much yes, because it is an illusion. Normal is subjective. It's based on whatever you think is normal, right? So that's a great reflection. It's deep. This is a great open-ended question. What would a normal life look for you? Great open-ended question. It sounds like you're fed up, especially since you've been trying so hard to get better. Absolutely. You're calling out the fact that they have been making the effort. So you're affirming as you're also reflecting. I hear you're feeling defeated. What does a normal life look to you? Great. These are great. So let's go to the next slide. Now we've had a little practice with reflections. So we're going to expand, which you guys are kind of already doing, and put really our skills to the test a bit more. So for this exercise, we're going to keep thinking as a group. We're going to keep practicing how to elicit change talk. The difference now, though, is that I want you to always be pairing, so multiple or skills. So I want you to continue using your reflections for every statement, but now pair it with another skill. So either, which you guys are, again, you're doing. So either an open-ended question, affirmation, or summary, which really actually would be kind of that transitional question. So it's up to you, whichever additional skill you want to use. Again, aside from using a reflection every time, but do your best to think about how you'd elicit change talk from this client by using additional oars. So for this exercise, we're actually going to set a target behavior of drinking. And we're doing this because I don't want you to have to wonder about who this client is, given the statements that she gives us are really short and sweet, right? Which is a lot of times what we get from our clients in the field. We don't get much some of the time. So I want us to practice based on reality. So let's say that our client is a middle-aged female. She can be 40 years old, and she's come in, she's mandated for substance use treatment. And needless to say, she's not super motivated. So she's kind of vacillating between pre-contemplation and contemplation. So she needs our help highlighting her ambivalence as we attempt to elicit change talk from her. So we'll do another example just so you guys know what I'm looking for in this exercise, because again, the statements are going to be shorter this go around. And that means we have less to work with when it comes to our oars, right? Our pairing an open-ended question, affirmation, or summary with our reflection. So as our example, let's say our patient says, nothing can help me. So as a provider, I'm immediately thinking to myself, oh man, like, what can I do? What can I say to help my client feel heard right now? How can I use my oars, right? So I'm actually going to think of two different examples to demonstrate what I'm looking for in this exercise, just so you guys have a couple examples to pull from, but keep in mind either of these would work. So first, to that statement, nothing can help me. So my response would probably be a reflection followed by an open-ended question. So nothing can help me. Okay, things feel hopeless right now, and I want to better understand. So tell me, how do you think you got to this point? Right, so I started by reflecting the feeling of hopelessness, which is basically my interpretation of a statement like nothing can help me. And I followed it by saying, I want to learn more. I asked an open-ended question as simple as, how do you think you got here? So for that second example, I could use a reflection followed by an affirmation. So my client says, nothing can help me. I could say, well, you know, I'm happy you came in to see me today. Sobriety can feel really helpless. I hear it. So I want to highlight and acknowledge the strength that it took for you to come in to see me today. I'm sure that this was not easy for you. Right, so the goal with this second exercise, which again, you guys, many of you are already doing in the first one, is to practice using our oars while figuring out how to elicit change talk. And I want you to get creative. Think about a reflection with an additional oars skill. Just as a reminder, our client is a middle-aged female. She's come in and she is mandated for alcohol treatment. She's not super motivated. So right now it's our job to highlight her ambivalence as we attempt to elicit change talk from her. So the first thing she says in this random hour that we have, where she gives us a bunch of little tiny snippets, are, I'm tired of feeling this way. So what would your response be? What oars skills would you use to really complement a reflection? So an additional one. Yes. You don't like the way you feel. Tell me more. It's perfect. And you're reflecting back the fact that they don't like the way they feel and you want to know more. It sounds like things seem hopeless, but you're here now. How courageous. Absolutely. I hear you're tired of feeling the way that you're feeling. How are you feeling? So that's good, because that actually is asking them to tell me more about the way that you're feeling. I want to know more about that. Absolutely. I hear that you're frustrated. What will help change? How are you feeling? What will help change how you're feeling? Sorry. It's exhausting to feel out of control, feeling out of control of your life. What do you want? Yes, that's a good open-ended question. You're fed up. What would you like to look different for you? Absolutely. How would your life be different if it was better, right? What would be different in your life? What would you be doing? What would you be thinking? What would you be saying? Who would be around you, right? That's so, so good. I hear that you're feeling tired. I'd like to hear about what you do to lift you up. Great. What do you do to take care of yourself? Absolutely. I'm so sorry it must be overwhelming for you to feel like you aren't in control of how you feel. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you've been feeling? Awesome. These are really good, guys. I hear you're feeling exhausted. It sounds like you're ready for change. Yes. What would you like to change first? Perfect. So good. And let's go to the second statement. Okay. So now she says, I'm afraid my husband's going to leave me if I don't get this under control. So again, which ORS skills would you use on top of your reflection? What would you say back to this client if she said this to you? It sounds like you care a lot about your husband. What's been helpful in the past? Perfect. So good. Your husband is important to you. What kind of changes are needed to keep your relationship afloat? Absolutely. What needs to change to make it better? Yes. I hear that you're feeling fearful. What have you done in the past when fear has come up? Awesome. Awesome. So you're identifying the emotion by reflecting back what they're feeling. And then you're asking, tell me more. Absolutely. Ooh, I like this one. So you're worried that your husband is losing his tolerance for your drinking. What would getting it under control look like? Super, super good question right there, because you're using your patient's words too. Yeah, Monica, the same thing. How would under control look like for you? Absolutely. You really love your husband. What have you done in the past that has helped regain control? Absolutely. Is there stuff that we can pull from that you've already done that you know that you've been successful with? It's just such a good question. Because a lot of times there is something, there's a lot of times that these clients that we work with have been successful. They have it in them to be successful. They always have been. It's just tapping back into that and reminding them that it's been there all along, and they can just learn how to kind of rechannel it. Couple more. I sense that your husband is important to you. What is under control to you? Yeah. You sound frightened. I'm sorry to hear that, which is awesome. You're being superhuman with that statement. What ideas do you have for changing your situation and maintaining your marriage? Awesome. That's super, super good. Yeah. And I should highlight, I think that giving these types of responses, so a lot of times reflections, right, they really are our interpretation of the emotion that we would be feeling if we were saying that statement. So they're personal. And I think that a big reason that they help us to connect with our clients is because we have to think about what we would feel. And if we understand what we would feel and we describe it in a way that our client can identify, then it's a connection. That's that rapport. So really, really great job with that. And can we go to our third statement? I need to stop getting arrested. So how would you respond to this? This is a short and sweet one. How would you elicit change talk from a statement like, I need to stop getting arrested? So use a reflection followed by any other of our ORS skills. These continue to be very good, you guys. Okay, so you're ready for things to look different. Help me understand what that would feel like for you, right? It's way to kind of just call it out like it's, I hear it in the one statement, even though it may not have been long, I hear that you're ready. You're tired of being arrested. Absolutely. How could your life improve if that were to change? Absolutely. Let's think about the future. How could it get better? Why would it be important to change? It sounds like you're ready to make a change. What would that look like? That really, it's good because it's keeping the client in the driver's seat. This is all about you and what's going to work for your life. Good job. I hear you're at your wit's end with the legal system. What's going to happen if this happens again? Good question. Yeah, you're over it. What do you think needs to change? Good. Oh, so good. You guys are highlighting, you hear that they want to make a change, right? What's next? These are great. I like your determination. What do you think needs to change? These are really, really good. Okay, let's go to our fourth statement. The dreaded doctor. My doctor keeps telling me I'm drinking too much. So what would we say back to that to elicit change talk? It can be annoying to keep hearing that. Do you think you're drinking too much? What would it look like if you drank less? Absolutely. It sounds like your doctor thinks you drink too much, but you don't. What do you think he might be worried about? Absolutely. You're in conflict with what your doctor's saying. I hear that. So what do you think? I like this one. Your doctor is concerned about your health, but he or she does not understand your life. Absolutely. Because that's so much of it is that we just don't understand. When we talk at people, it's hard for them to feel like we understand them, right? Because we're coming at them from a place of authority as opposed to collaboration and partnership. It sounds like you've heard this before. Do you agree with your doctor? Super plain and simple, absolutely. I hear that you don't feel like you have a drinking problem or you have a problem. Could you maybe tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on why your doctor thinks that? Really, really good reflection paired with an open-ended question there. Absolutely. I like here's Julie. Doctors think they know everything. Why would, it's so true sometimes. Why would he think drinking is so bad for you? That's a great way of also actually kind of bringing some humor into it, because I think that would, it just makes you so real when you say something like that. You know, you're just able to really kind of be there with your patient. Why do you think they're thinking that? Like, what do you think is happening? I hear doctor feedback is important for you. Tell me what too much looks like for you. Good question. Really good question. It sounds like that bothers you. Do you agree? Also a really good question after that reflection. It must be frustrating always being told that you need to change. Do you feel as concerned as your doctor? Spot on right there. Really, really good job. And let's go to the fifth statement. When I get like this, everything in my life falls apart. So what would your response be to this? What would you say to help your client feel heard and to want to keep talking about change? It sounds like you're tired of feeling like you do. Tell me more about what that means. Really, really good. Holding up the pieces when everything is falling apart. It sounds exhausting. What does that feel like for you? These are so good. These are so meaningful. You know, at the end of the day, I think that clients are really, they would connect with these things. You guys are really hearing what she's saying. I hear that you've been here before. What would you like to change? Absolutely. It sounds like you feel like you have no control. How can I help you cope with what you're feeling? That's great. I'm here with you. How can I help? What can we do? I hear you're worried of losing control. Tell me more about how it feels to get this way. Good. It's really, really good. And let's go to the sixth statement. This is a very short and sweet one, but one that's very powerful. I'm not a drunk, right? What do you say when you hear that? So again, use a reflection followed by another or skill. I'm not a drunk. It sounds like you don't have a drinking problem. Why do you think other people are saying that you're a drunk? Plain and simple. You know, why is there so much conflict? Where is that coming from? Oh, Tamara, I love this one. You're a person, not an alcoholic. How does it feel when you hear that label? Really, really great reflection and question there, open-ended question there. It sounds like you've heard someone tell you that before. How would you describe being a drunk? Yeah. I'm hearing that you feel judged and that people are not understanding. Tell me more about how you see yourself. Absolutely. Yes, Jack. Being labeled is a terrible feeling. How would you define yourself? Yes. How can I empower you right now? Really, really great question there. It's frustrating to feel labeled. Can you tell me more about your personal situation? Awesome. We can do one more. A lot of these are really good. Some are very similar. So you guys are like right on the money. I'm sure it's hard when people put labels on you. How would you describe yourself? Great reflection, great question. And let's go to the next statement, the seventh statement. I want to have a normal life. What would your response be when she says this to you? What would a reflection and an additional or statement be when your patient says this? You don't see your life as normal. How do you define normal? Absolutely, right? What does that mean to you? How do you define it? Because it doesn't feel like that's what you feel right now. It sounds like you're unhappy with your life right now. Good job. What does normal look like for you, to you? Sorry if I mess up on some of the things I'm reading back to you guys. I hear you. It can be overwhelming, feeling like you have to change your entire life. Great, great reflection. What would a normal life look to you? Awesome. Yes, it sounds like you're tired of this drama. What would a normal life look like to you? Really great open-ended questions. You guys have a lot of similar ones, and it's because, honestly, you're right on the mark with this client of ours here. Normalcy can be a great ideal. Yes. What would your normal look like if you could describe it? Really, really good open-ended question there. I see that you're longing for a normal life. What's a normal life mean for you? Really good. Okay, and let's go to, I think it's our eighth statement. I quit a couple months one time. What would you say, which skill would you use on top of a reflection? When our client says, I quit a couple months one time. Okay, so you have a goal in mind. What does a normal life look for you? How would you get there? Great, great question. That's great. So you know you can do it. What can we do to make that happen again and for longer? You are capable and you can quit. What was the time? What was that time like for you? Absolutely. All right. So the last thing that I wanted to do was just talk about the role that we play when changes are in progress. So really when our clients have moved from pre-contemplation or contemplation into preparation and action. So we basically just keep going, right? We maintain everything we've been doing with the reassurance that everything we've been practicing today, those oars, we can pull from them when we need them. So when changes are in progress, when steps are being made, we continue to use our oars to strengthen our client's commitment and plan for any additional actions that need to be taken. Life can change really quickly. So it's important to recognize, and I think I mentioned this last week, change plans may need to change, right? So as MI providers, we need to be able to think on the fly. So practicing just like we did today, it's so important that you keep practicing. To condense this, let's see. I would say the biggest thing is that when we can, I'll give you guys just the example actually that I wanted to give in this slide. So basically, the reason that it's important to continue using our OARs, to continue really evoking, focusing, eliciting, all these things that we do, it helps to keep our patients honest in many ways. You're bringing up all of their reasons for change and why they want to change when things get kind of hairy. So, this is the example that I wanted to give. So there was this patient that I worked with years ago, and he came in wanting an admission to residential treatment. He was planning to detox off everything he was using and discharged to a program that was really focused on housing and employment. Long story short, everything kind of blew up right before his admission. And so what we had to do was really decide, we need to pivot. We need to change everything right now. Even though we had a completely solid change plan, we had to figure out pros and cons. How are we going to change what you're going to do to become sober and stay sober? So what I would say is, aside from keeping our patients on track to achieve their targeted behavior, when things change and we want to help our clients stay the course, the reason that we want to is we can actually model for them that changes don't have to derail their efforts, because we still have all these skills we can use, right? We can show them that they have the ability to pivot and to keep moving forward towards their goal, towards their targeted behavior, when you're able to focus them back in if things come up. And that was mainly what I was going to talk about. Do you guys have any questions? This was a really quick end to the to the presentation. I'm sorry we didn't stay on. I even had a stopwatch. Does anyone have any questions though?
Well, people take a moment to put any questions in the chat box. I just want to thank you so much, Christina. Oh my gosh. I wonder if there are any questions that people might have. And I think one that I'm imagining and kind of going back to is when we watched that wonderful video of the horse training. Because we are all human and we were trained in a medical model, that is kind of the antithesis of motivational interviewing. It's easy to get kind of tripped up, like intend to do motivational interviewing, but then finding ourselves saying or doing things that are not motivational interviewing.
Right.
How do you kind of, what is your internal guide? Yeah. And what is your internal guidepost that lets you know, like, ooh, I've gone in that other direction I don't want to go in?
I think the easiest, you're going to make mistakes. It's knowing that, and it's being okay with it so that you can adjust and call yourself on it. If you have noticed that you've said something that you feel like was judgmental, say, hold on, that did not come out the way that I wanted it to come out. I'd like to try again. And you can kind of go, I think sometimes it's just being a human being, right? Like our patients are human beings, they're ambivalent. So us as therapists, we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes, and that's going to happen, and that's going to be okay. It's how you recover from it. And it's how sometimes you call yourself on it to let your client know, I'm a real person too. And I just totally messed up, but I'm still totally here with you. And I'm sorry if that came out wrong. If you want to talk about it, I think we should. And if not, then let's move forward. What's the next step? But yeah.
Outstanding. Thank you. Tammy Wolk asks the question, if you have a go-to phrase that you kind of use on the fly, and people are typing such great things that I've actually lost, in my view, the message, but it was essentially a go-to phrase.
I think my go-to, so it depends. Like if I'm working in addiction, I did have a go-to with substance use where I would highlight that most of the providers in their life were telling them that I was pretty sure that most of the providers were telling them all the bad things. And so my go-to was, tell me all the good things about why you're using. What's it helping with? That was, it was good because it oftentimes really threw people. I think my go-to though, when I'm stuck, is tell me more. Tell me more about that. What else? It's those really short little phrases that still open things up, but don't let the client know, I don't really know what to say next, but I know that I want to hear more. So tell me more. But that would probably be my go-to phrase.
Outstanding. And that's resonating with Joey, and Gulo is also saying that they like that go-to phrase as well. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the challenges of if you're practicing motivational interviewing and you're in an interdisciplinary team and not everyone else that you work with is a motivational interviewing practitioner. Can you talk a little bit about how that might cause challenges sometimes and how you deal with it?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, the only thing you can control is what you do. And you can relay that at times. Like I definitely had some really challenging, I won't even say they're disciplined, but different providers that I worked with. And, you know, I would say never talk badly about your colleagues, even if you don't agree with them. But if your client comes in needing to say, you know, so-and-so is like, this is how they speak to me, or this is how, listen to them. Validate the fact that it doesn't feel good to be spoken to like that, right? You're not necessarily saying anything bad about your colleague, but you're also letting your client know you can come and talk to me if one of us is not doing the best job. And maybe I can go talk to them about that, right? And that's a lot of times what I would do is if there was really some more egregious complaints, I'd go talk to the provider of who the complaints were about and say, hey, I think the way that this is happening, however it's hitting this particular patient, it'd be helpful if we could work around, you know, X, Y, and Z. And if it didn't change, sometimes what I would do if it was really bad, if our, I guess, approaches were really, really different, is I would join some of their sessions so that, because at times when they can get really bad like that, your patient's going to stop wanting to go see that provider. So if you can kind of join the session, make sure that everyone is a team, even though they may be different, you know, they're my teammate and we're all your team. I think that that's probably what I would do. I want to acknowledge it's a really hard thing to navigate though. How long did it
Excellent
actually
response.
take you to master?
Yeah.
It took me like so I actually went through a program where I had to audio record my my sessions for 6 months. So it took me a long time. And again, the goal with all of this is you just want to be able to think quickly with it. So that's why you practice it. And this has been great for me because I'm not doing direct practice right now in my life. I'm doing data analysis, you know, so this has been a good refresher just for my clinical brain. But yeah, it can be really, really tough.
Christina, thank you so very much. And to all of the people who have attended today, this has been outstanding. The participation, I know everybody has been learning from one another. And like Christina said before, super impressive, the feedback that people have been giving and sharing. Can we go to the next slide, please? I just have a couple of housekeeping points for the very end of our session here. So we've got the resources. These are in the slides that were sent to you ahead of time. There will be sent more. The slides will be sent again in a follow-up email. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here are the references. We also really welcome you to connect with us. Go to our website, please visit it and connect to us via social media. We are thrilled to be in contact with you and to hear from you. And here is our contact information. Please do stay in touch with us. And without further ado, that brings us to the top of the hour. So again, Christina, thank you so much for giving us this wonderful presentation. Thank you to everyone who attended.